The reason why I was going to have Mike on, I saw his column on Bleacher Report where he talked about the locker room and how Donald Trump being elected president could affect a locker room. Or is it racially divided? Now, locker rooms get divided by women and money. It's rarely politics, but Mike pointed these things out today, and I wanted to have him on. Mike, good morning. Thanks for joining us. How would you summarize your article?
Always good to be with you. I would summarize it as locker rooms are just like the rest of America. And you're right in that locker rooms usually are divided by money and women. Sometimes both at the same time. But this is different. I mean, this election has been different, as you know. As everyone knows, it's a whole different ball game. And politics have always been a part of every locker room that I've covered, but it's been sort of a minor player. This has moved to the forefront because, like everyone else in America, there are just so many strong opinions, or most people in America, so many strong opinions about this election and the two people that were in it, that it seeped into the locker room. That this is not every locker room. This is not. I can't speak for everyone, but I think it's a pretty good representation of what's going on. That there's a lot of heated discussions, or in some cases, no discussions, which is kind of almost the same thing. And people just feel very strongly, and players feel very strongly. And one quick thing, I think fans don't get that players are very tuned into with the world around them, and not just sort of sitting back and just focusing on football. They look at everything. They hear all this stuff, and they have very, very strong opinions too. So it's a whole big mix that has led to some of this discussion in the locker room.
But it's one thing to say, all right, you voted for that guy, I voted for this guy. I don't know if we're looking at Rex Ryan differently, if his players do, if his African-American players do because he was a Trump supporter, or Bill Belichick voting for Donald Trump, what that means to his players. What's it mean for free agents? Do you want to play for Rex Ryan? Are we going to have a White House boycott by teams, by entire teams, not just players because of Donald Trump? So extrapolate this. It's one thing, once I go on the field, guys don't like each other, but you still play. I imagine that Richie Incognito is still going to block for Tyrod Taylor. They may disagree politically. So once you get on the field, that doesn't change. So where are we going with any of this, if we're going anywhere at all with this political dynamic?
No, you're right. Once the game starts, there's nothing. And even what I would say is there's not going to be some sort of rebellion, or there may be some interesting situations with the White House. That may be really interesting to watch. But I don't think there's going to be these. When I talk about division, I don't mean someone's not going to block for someone. It's more polls kind of show what happens with African Americans and whites, and when they talk about Trump, and that seeps into the locker room. It's not going to cause fistfights, and people aren't going to be throwing chairs at each other. But I do think it's going to cause people to look differently at one another. And when you look at how black people in general, African Americans in general, view Trump, it's not very favorable. And there's white players and white people who view Trump very positively. And those things have clashed. And they have clashed outside of locker rooms, and they clash inside locker rooms. That doesn't mean there's going to be brawls. It just means I do think you're going to have players, I already know this, who look at coaches like Rex Ryan or Belichick or Brady differently, not in any kind of way that they're going to express it or there's going to be any kind of mutiny, and they look at them differently. But when the games start, everyone plays hard, everyone does what they do. But I do think if you look at what's happening in America, this is playing out across America, and locker rooms are no different from our country.
But this has been the year of the activist in sports, certainly with Colin Kaepernick. And I do think Muhammad Ali did shake up some of these young athletes to say, this is what I did. And, you do have your chance. I don't know if we see anything. And I'm curious, you being African-American, that Colin Kaepernick said he didn't vote. What do you make of that?
I don't come down as hard on him as some people have. I don't understand why you wouldn't vote if you think so much is at stake as he has done. And I think I've been a backer of his. I think what he's done is very brave. That's a whole nother argument. But if you feel that so much is at stake here, why didn't you vote? So, but that doesn't. He's gotten a lot of vitriol for that, in addition to some of the other stuff. But I don't feel that way. I just wonder why.
Well, but he doesn't. If he didn't want to vote for a president, okay, just say, look, I chose not to out of principle. I didn't think either. But vote for local leaders. Be involved in something, and that's what bothered me the most. If you don't want to vote for Trump or Hillary, fine. Write in somebody or say, I went and voted, but I voted for local politicians.
Yeah, I mean, write in Dan Patrick.
Absolutely.
The hell.
Well, Aaron Rodgers got a few votes.
Well, I would vote for him.
Instead of Trump and Hillary, you would have written in Aaron Rodgers?
I would have written in Aaron Rodgers.
I know you wrote the book on Kenny Stabler. Help me with this. He went into the Hall of Fame posthumously, but is he supposed to get a Hall of Fame jacket and ring? Is the family supposed to get that, and they haven't received that from the Hall of Fame?
Well, I feel this is one of the dumber rules in sports that basically – the Hall of Fame has a policy where they don't give out the jacket and ring to the family if someone is inducted posthumously like Stabler was, which just seems kind of cold-hearted and cheap to me. That's just me. I don't get it. It makes no sense to me. If the family wants a jacket and ring, give him the jacket and ring. It's his family, and he obviously is not there to accept it, so give it to the family. But they say they have a long-standing rule that isn't the case. My problem is it just comes off as a very sort of corporate-y, no soul kind of decision when it was, to me, such an easy fix. You just give the family the ring or the jacket, and then you can get some positive publicity out of it. You look like you care. But they take this opposite route, which to me is kind of crazy.
Yeah, but Mike, I don't understand this. I like what is it to gain if you're the Hall of Fame? You come off so small.
That's the point. I don't know, Dan. It just doesn't make any sense. And with the NFL has always said that they don't run the Hall of Fame, but basically they are very, very close. They're symbiotic. The NFL will deny this, but they are. And it's not like, Dan, the NFL is a little short on money. You know,
well, the ratings are down, Mike.
Oh, they still got a few billion somewhere stashed away. They can afford a few jackets and rings. They could turn this around pretty quickly, but they chose not to. Just bad decision.
The book is Snake, The Legendary Life of Kenny Stabler. He's Mike Freeman, Bleacher Report, their NFL lead writer. Mike, great to talk to you again. Have a great weekend. Thanks for joining us.
Always good. Vote for Dan.
All right. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Mike.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.